The traitor had it all figured out. He turned the fortress into a deadly trap, preying on the arrogance of the strong, but he made a mistake. He left a ghost in the system, not a virus, but a quiet girl named Petrova. He watched them mock her, seek to destroy her, because he knew a terrible truth. Her father's legacy was not a disgrace. It was the key to destroying his entire plan. A crisp autumn wind swept down from the peaks of the Blue Ridge Mountains, carrying the scent of pine and damp earth across the sprawling, state-of-the-art NATO training facility nestled in the Virginia highlands. The early morning sun struggled to burn through a thin layer of mist, casting long, distorted shadows that clung to the barracks and training grounds. It was the kind of cold that hinted at the approaching winter, sharp and unforgiving. Private Anya Petrova stood in formation, a solitary figure amidst the boisterous energy of the other recruits. At 24, she possessed a quiet, classical beauty, fair skin, piercing gray eyes, and long, jet-black hair pulled back into a severe, immaculate bun. Her Army combat uniform was standard issue, but it fit her slender, wiry frame with a precision that bespoke a deep, ingrained discipline. She carried only a single backpack and a past she was determined to keep buried. The day's first exercise was the obstacle course, a grueling circuit of mud, wood, and steel designed to break down recruits both physically and mentally. It was here that Anya first truly met Cade Hunter Garrison. The son of a powerful senator, Cade was 25, handsome, and built like a predator, all lean muscle and confident swagger. His sun-streaked blonde hair and easy grin couldn't hide the dismissive arrogance in his eyes. As Anya approached the rope wall, Cade deliberately stepped in her path, his shoulder checking hers. "Watch it, Ghost," he sneered, the nickname already catching on among his circle. "This place isn't for the slow and silent." He scaled the wall with practiced ease. When it was Anya's turn, she took a running start, but a strategically placed foot from Cade sent her stumbling into the muddy ground at the base of the wall. Laughter erupted from his followers, led by Brielle Vancroft. With her sharp features and perfectly styled auburn hair, Brielle was Cade's echo, her cruelty honed by a desire to remain in his powerful orbit. Anya said nothing. She rose, wiped the mud from her hands, and looked up at the wall. Ignoring the ropes, she took a deep breath, sprinted towards the wall, and used a series of almost imperceptible hand and footholds in the wooden slats. Her movements were fluid, efficient, a display of rock-climbing technique that was utterly out of place on a standard military course. She reached the top in half the time it had taken Cade. Landing softly on the other side, she continued on without a backward glance. Her silence, her refusal to engage, seemed to infuriate Cade more than any retort could have. Later, as the recruits cleaned their gear, Brielle went to work. "I heard she only got in because of some charity case," she whispered loudly to a group near the armory. "You know, for families of disgraced soldiers, something about her father." The rumor spread like wildfire, a poison designed to isolate Anya completely. Anya heard it, of course. She simply continued disassembling her rifle, her face a mask of cold neutrality that everyone mistook for weakness. Meanwhile, in the chilled, humming heart of the base's server room, Specialist Leo Glitch Martinez was fighting his own war. 28 and lanky, with glasses perpetually sliding down his nose, Leo was a genius wrapped in social anxiety. His oversized jumpsuit did little to hide how he swam in his own clothes. The night before, his heart had hammered against his ribs as he watched the security feed for the main weapons depot, a vault containing tactical ordnance. Simply go black for exactly 17 seconds. Then, it returned as if nothing had happened. His report to Major Davies was met with a dismissive pat on the shoulder. "Probably a power surge, Martinez. Don't get paranoid." The next day, Anya's issued communication tablet went dark after another accidental collision with Cade. "My apologies, Ghost," he'd said, not sounding apologetic at all. She was directed to Leo's lab. She found him hunched over a console, muttering to himself. "Just a loose connection," he mumbled, taking the tablet from her. As he searched for a replacement part, Anya's gaze drifted to his main monitor. It was filled with scrolling lines of code, but something was wrong. It wasn't a standard program. A single elegant string of characters was replicating, evolving, and probing the system's firewalls with an eerie intelligence. Her breath caught in her throat. It was an adaptive algorithm, a theoretical, sentient code. The very concept her father had been ruined for describing in his research papers. "Where did you find this?" Her voice was a low whisper, but it cut through the hum of the servers with the force of a command. Leo jumped, startled. "Oh, that? It just shows up. Randomly. Everyone says I'm seeing things." Anya stepped closer, her gray eyes fixed on the screen. "You're not seeing things," she said, her voice dropping, filled with a chilling certainty. "This isn't a glitch. This is a hunter." At that same moment, across the training yard, Sergeant Kalen was watching the recruits practice drills. A man in his late 30s with a rugged, trustworthy face and a chest full of ribbons. Kalen had publicly admonished Cade for bothering Anya earlier. He projected an aura of fairness. Now he turned away, pulling out a small encrypted device. He spoke in a low, coded murmur. "The asset is here. She has the gift, maybe even more than her father. The target is in range." The air in the Tactical Operations Center crackled with manufactured tension. Banks of monitors glowed in the cavernous, darkened room, casting blue light on the focused faces of the recruits. This was the Cerberus Forge, a hyper-realistic cyber warfare simulation. On one side of the room, Cade's team, the Predators, celebrated each minor breach with loud cheers. Their approach, a digital blitzkrieg of brute force attacks that were powerful but sloppy. On the other side, Anya's team, the Guardians, was on the verge of collapse. Their firewalls were crumbling. "Petrova, what are we doing? We're getting slaughtered." A teammate panicked. Anya's gaze never left her screen. "Let them break the outer walls," she commanded, her voice a calm anchor in the storm. "Focus on deploying the decoy subsystems. Keep them busy." While her team created a chaotic maze of false targets, Anya worked silently at the core, her fingers flying across the keyboard. She wasn't building walls, she was constructing a fortress of elegant, interlocking code, a digital labyrinth so complex it seemed to breathe. Sergeant Kalen moved behind her, his presence warm and encouraging. "Impressive work, Private Petrova," he said, his voice a low rumble. "But your core system is drawing too much power. I see a secondary server that's underutilized. I suggest you migrate your core there. It will be more efficient, less of a target." Anya's fingers hesitated. A flicker of wrongness, a cold premonition, brushed against her intuition. Why isolate the most critical component? But it was a suggestion from a trusted superior, a test perhaps. "Yes, Sergeant," she replied, her voice even. She executed the command. As the data streamed across the network, she felt it. Not a lag, but a ghost. A whisper-light, intelligent mirroring of her every action. It wasn't just a transfer, it was a digital interrogation, a perfect copy of her fortress being spirited away into the dark. The simulation ended. The Predators won on points, but the Guardians' core had remained untouched. That evening, Anya met Leo in the hushed, dusty confines of the base's old library. The smell of aging paper, a stark contrast to the day's sterile technology. On her personal laptop, they replayed the data logs from the exercise. "There," Leo whispered, his finger stabbing at the screen. "Right when you migrated the core. A single packet, less than a kilobyte, was sent from that secondary server. It's masked as a routine system diagnostics report, but the encryption... Anya, it's military grade, far beyond anything used in a training sim. They had their proof. Working late into the night, they compiled a detailed report outlining the security breach, the sophisticated disguise of the data packet, and the potential for an insider threat. The next morning, they stood before Colonel Eva Rostova. A woman in her late 40s, Rostova was sharp and severe, with silver-streaked hair pulled back into a tight bun. Her reputation for being unyieldingly fair was legendary, but her piercing eyes missed nothing. Sergeant Kalen stood beside her desk. He took the report from Anya. He read it carefully, a thoughtful frown on his face. Then he looked up, and a paternal smile touched his lips. "Excellent work," he said, turning to Rostova. "This was a hidden test I embedded within the simulation. a loyalty and initiative test. I wanted to see who was paying attention. He then looked back at Anya and Leo, his expression shifting to one of mild disappointment. Unfortunately, you failed. Your conclusion of an insider threat is a dangerous leap. Paranoia can be as deadly as a bullet recruits. He had twisted their diligence into a flaw, their discovery into a delusion. Colonel Rostova listened, her expression unreadable, but her trust clearly lay with her veteran sergeant. "Dismissed," she said, her voice final. As they walked out of the command office, the door clicking shut behind them, Anya and Leo exchanged a look of cold, terrifying understanding. The enemy wasn't some distant hacker in the shadows. He was inside the fortress, wearing their uniform, and he had just silenced their only warning. The siren ripped through the base with a physical, gut-wrenching force. Emergency lights bathed the corridors in a strobing, hellish red as steel blast doors slammed shut, sealing off sections of the facility with deafening finality. In the command center, the main screen flashed a single terrifying message in block letters. System compromised, defense protocol, shade, activated. Below it, a new line of text appeared. Tactical missile launch sequence initiated. A 60-minute countdown began, ticking down with relentless precision. The target, Silver Creek, a civilian town 50 kilometers away. Chaos erupted. Colonel Rostova barked orders into a dead communication system. On the floor, Cade, reverting to his training, raced to an emergency terminal. "I'm initiating a hard shutdown," he yelled, his fingers flying across the keypad. But with every command he entered, the system fought back. The lights flickered violently, and a new warning flashed. "Manual override attempt detected. Accelerating auxiliary systems." Outside, the automated perimeter turrets swiveled, their targeting lasers now scanning the grounds for friendly forces. Sergeant Kalin stood behind Rostova, his expression one of grim composure. "Colonel, our protocols have been turned against us," he said, his voice unnervingly calm amidst the panic. "We should evacuate all personnel. There's no hope of stopping it from in here." Trapped in the residential wing, Anya and Leo heard the first bursts of gunfire from the automated defenses. "The secondary control station," Anya yelled over the din. "Sector C. It runs on a separate network. It's our only chance." Their path was a death trap. A janitorial drone, its cleaning appendages now crackling with electricity, blocked the corridor. They scrambled through a ventilation shaft, the metal groaning around them, emerging into a hallway just as a patrol drone's searchlight swept past. They sprinted, the drone's whirring blades hot on their heels, and dove through the station's doorway just as it opened fire, peppering the frame with shots. Inside the cramped station, Anya threw herself at the console. Her fight began. But the virus, Shade, was a monster. It was intelligent, adaptive. Every firewall she built, it found a way around. Every back door she tried to open, it had already sealed. It was anticipating her, countering her moves before she even made them. "It knows what I'm going to do," she breathed, her face pale in the monitor's glow. "It has to be getting live feedback. There's an insider in the command center, telling it how to react." Her fingers became a blur as she wrote a new script, a trace route designed to pinpoint the source of the data leak. A single user ID flashed on her screen, a high-privilege credential overriding all others. SGTRKAELEN. At that exact moment in the command center, Colonel Rostova watched another of their counter-assaults fail, an assault Kalin had just proposed. She turned, her eyes narrowed to icy slits. Every failed attempt, every move the enemy anticipates, it's been on your recommendation. Her voice was dangerously quiet. "It was you." Kalin's trustworthy smile didn't falter, but it became something cold and reptilian. He slowly drew his sidearm from its holster. "I did advise an evacuation, Colonel," he said smoothly, leveling the weapon at her. "It's too late for that now." The staccato rhythm of machine gun fire echoed across the grounds. Inside the command center, a tense stalemate held. Kalin kept his pistol trained on Rostova, a cold smile playing on his lips. Outside, a combat drone had zeroed in on the secondary control station, unleashing a relentless barrage. Concrete and shrapnel rained down, the building groaning under the assault. From a sheltered position behind a wrecked vehicle, Cade watched in horror. The arrogant smirk was gone, replaced by a grim understanding. His bullying, his blindness, it had all contributed to this. He saw Anya, the woman he'd dismissed as a ghost, now fighting a war he couldn't even comprehend, and she was about to be killed for it. A raw, primal courage surged through him. "To the station!" he roared to the handful of soldiers pinned down with him. "Protect her!" Now, it was a suicide run. They charged, using overturned tables and pieces of metal as makeshift shields, drawing the drone's fire. They formed a desperate human wall around the small building, a last stand fueled by Cade's newfound loyalty. Inside, the countdown clock on Anya's screen dipped below 2 minutes. "Leo, route all auxiliary power to the main processor. Everything," she commanded, her voice steady. "I'm going to try something insane." She stopped fighting the virus. Instead, she began to build. With breathtaking speed, she coded a perfect contained virtual environment, a digital sandbox. Then, she executed her father's last, most controversial theory, the Echo Protocol. She created a perfect mirror image of the shade virus within the sandbox, and then broadcast a single powerful signal, tricking the original virus into believing its clone was the base's true core system. The hunter, seeing a rival in its territory, turned its full might inward. The virus and its echo tore each other apart in a feedback loop of mutual annihilation. On the main command screen, the timer froze at 0002. The missile launch sequence read, "Aborted." The automated turrets went silent, their barrels drooping. The sudden quiet in the command center startled Kalen. In that split second of distraction, Rostova acted. She slammed her elbow back into his ribs and disarmed him in one fluid motion. Military police stormed the room. The data Anya had extracted from the virus's dying core was a treasure trove. It was the key that unlocked everything. The fallout was swift and decisive. Sergeant Kalen, a military tribunal found him guilty of treason, espionage, and conspiracy to commit mass terrorism. His sentence was life, without the possibility of parole in the ADX Florence Supermax prison. The Cicada organization. The data exposed a shadow network of politicians, generals, and corporate executives. A series of sealed indictments led to dozens of high-profile arrests, including that of Senator Garrison, Cade's father, triggering a political earthquake. Brielle Vancroft. An internal investigation found her guilty of systematic harassment of a fellow soldier during a national security crisis. She was dishonorably discharged, stripped of all benefits, and permanently barred from all government and contractor employment. Cade Garrison. He faced a court-martial for his initial insubordination. However, his heroic defense of the control station, attested to by the surviving soldiers, saved his career. He was demoted one rank but allowed to remain in the service. He formally requested a transfer to serve under Anya's command. Months later, the Virginia air was cool and clear. Commander Anya Petrova stood before a simple marble headstone in Arlington National Cemetery. The name chiseled into the stone was Ivan Petrov, with a new inscription beneath it, "A Patriot Vindicated." She placed her new commander's insignia on the cold stone. "We did it, Dad," she whispered. "Justice is served. Now I finish what you started." She turned and walked away, her face no longer that of a scorned recruit, but a leader, forged in fire, ready for the war that was yet to come. Some might say that what happened at the base was a perfect storm of skill, luck, and timing. But when you look closer, you see something more. You see a single person with a unique set of gifts she never asked for, placed in the one moment in history where those gifts could save hundreds of lives. One might call that a miracle. It's a powerful reminder of how God can work in our own lives. We often face challenges that seem insurmountable, a crisis at work, a struggle in our family, or a moment of deep uncertainty. We feel small and overlooked, just like Anya. But this story teaches us that God equips each of us with hidden strengths, unique talents that we may not even recognize in ourselves. The same way He gave Anya the mind to decode the impossible, He has given you the strength, wisdom, or compassion you need for your own battles. Perhaps the true miracle isn't the flashy, impossible event, but the quiet potential that God places inside every ordinary person, waiting for the right moment to be revealed. It is a call to have faith, not just in a higher power, but in the gifts He has entrusted to you. What are your thoughts on Anya's journey? Do you believe these moments are part of a greater plan? Let us know in the comments below. If this story touched your heart, please share it with someone who needs a reminder of their own hidden strength. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories of faith and courage. Thank you for watching. May God bless you and keep you safe.